Hello and good afternoon. Karibu sana to Midweek Vibes. Today, this is a show that offers professional and spiritual insights into the ever-changing aspects of time. My name is Jasmine Wangai, and I'm very delighted to be hosting you today. And absolutely, of course, you know I'm not alone. I'm joined by a wonderful guest today. I'll not say much. I'll just turn over to her and ask her to introduce herself and tell us who she is, where she's from, and what it is that she does. So, karibu.
Asante sana.
Awesome.
So I'm Debora. I'm from Brazil, and I'm a gymnastics coach and a missionary. I currently live in New Jersey, United States, and there I've been working as a gymnastics coach and also serving my church as a missionary.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
That's beautiful, Debora. Karibu sana to our show today.
Asante.
Obviously, you probably may be wondering what it is that we'll be tackling and talking about. Our focus for today is ministry and sports. And the question, as we get to hear Debora's story, is to explore where's the place of sports when it comes to ministry. As a missionary, as a Christian, she said she is a gymnastics teacher. Where's the place of this in ministry? And probably, Debora, you can shed a little more light into what gymnastics is, that sport. I think for us, we consider it as a very elite sport, not for everyone. We'll think of very slender and tall people. These are the only people who can go through gymnastics. Are our views about that right?
A little bit. It's a little bit. It's a elitized sport. I actually got my first contact with gymnastics back in Brazil when I was a child, and it was actually in a very humble school. My school didn't have all the apparatus that a real gym had, but still I got the contact with like the sport. I got to practice a little bit. It was super fun, and later on, I got a scholarship in a very nice private school. Yes.
Yeah.
So gymnastics is a little bit like a elitized sport because like the apparatus that we use are very expensive. But at the same time, like we are able to adapt, a lot of the skills that we teach to help the kids with flexibility, coordination, strength, and so many of the things.
Yeah. So are you trying to say there's a way it can be made cheaper and accommodate anyone, even if the expensive apparatus are not available?
Yes, because you see, gymnastics has so much to it.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to resume. This is an Olympic sport. Like we just bring so much in terms of the physical activity that we bring to the kids, right? So it just like pops so much creativity to the coaches when you are in a limited space.
Yeah.
Like I was in a limited space once that we didn't have beams or bars or like a professional floor, and still I was able to learn a lot.
Yeah, a lot from it.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I feel like I just dived right into defining what gymnastics is and stuff. It would be nice to hear a little bit of your story about how you got into the sport. Is this what you always wanted to do? And how come now you moved from Brazil to the US? How did you get into that considered elite sport and now thriving and loving it now?
As I started doing gymnastics at my school, it was like a public school, and it was like two coaches that just decided to, teach the kids at school while I was like running around. So it was like literally 2 hours of recreational gymnastics. I was like 11, so I was old to start like a actually professional career as a gymnast. So I understand that was like more recreational than anything. But I got this opportunity to train in this private school around my city where like they have more apparatus, they have like more structures and everything. And there I met some friends, I met some coaches, and through those coaches, later on they moved to New Jersey to coach gymnastics, right? So I went to college, I did physical education. I was always passionate about gymnastics.
So that's what you did in college?
Yes,
that's
I did physical education,
okay.
Thinking about the sports because like it holds on my childhood the memories of like, doing gymnastics. I started helping on that private school as like an assistant when I was like still young, 15 years old around. And so that's why I decided to do physical education because like I really love this sport so much. So I was like hoping that in my future I could like go back and do something on that area.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Wow, that's really good. Then tell us a little bit then of your story of how you moved from Brazil to the US, and currently you said you live in the US. You're here in Kenya and you're in Mamlaka Hill Chapel. Tell us all that connection of how you got to the US, how you're here in Kenya, and tell us the story about gymnastics right there inside.
Okay, so I left Brazil to just get to know the country and learn the language, and I ended up getting this great opportunity to work in this gym where my Brazilian friends were, and the owner was also Brazilian, so they make the proposal of like, okay, maybe you could come and work with us, like you're very good with the kids, and that's how I got the opportunity to be working on that gym, and that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've been working as a gymnastics coach since then.
Yeah.
And I guess you're saying like the connection to Kenya, right? So
yes.
so that's more about my calling, right? I had a calling when I was 17 to go to Africa. When I was coming back from a missionary trip, a friend just whispered on my ear, like, go to Africa. And that sentence like I was carrying that over my whole life. I always knew it that something in the future would happen around here. So a couple of years ago, I started like just being more specific, intentional with God about my calling and questioning him, like, Africa is big. Like, where should I go? Like, gymnastics, mission, like, what should happen? So he little by little, like, start, guiding me, and he told me to come to Kenya. So that's when I start, like, coming with the idea, okay, I'm just going to go and see how things goes, and now I'm here.
No, you're most welcome. Of course, absolutely. We're really happy to have you, I must say. Then tell us, I understand you don't work in a Christian institution. The gym you work at where you teach gymnastics, it's not a Christian institution. But you're also talking about a calling that you have as a missionary. How do the two merge? It feels like you have two full-time professions that you do. How do the two merge, and how is it for you to be in that setting where it's a secular institution, but you are a Christian and a missionary for that matter? How is that for you?
I think this is my biggest challenge, is being my biggest challenge. And I've been learning through the years that we are one. God made us one human being. Like, we are not like boxes and separated. So I think that was like the hardest lesson for me to learn that, like, I'm a gymnastics coach, I'm a missionary, but I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
So that's my identity in Christ. So when I'm coaching, I'm also a missionary. And when I'm ministering, I'm also a coach. So like if I'm ministering to the kids in church, all the sources of education that I learned in the gym and how to deal with the kids, the loving language to connect with them can be used. And as I'm on the gym, my faith can still be expressed. Although, like you said, it's a secular institution. So New York is very tough about like those themes as religious. So we're not like freely able to speak about Jesus, like, so I don't get to the gym and I start preaching to the kids. Because that's not how it works.
And that's where I'm really curious at. How do you maintain that? How do you continue being relevant, for lack of a better word, in an environment where you're not allowed to share your faith freely and share it with others? How do you go about it?
It's challenging.
Yeah.
I would say that it's very challenging. The distractions in the city are big. So even from my personal relationship with God and my personal life, I struggle sometimes. So I always bring that to God. Like, God, I don't want to like wake up and do my devotional and step on the gym and be another person. Like, I need to carry this over.
Yeah.
But I think I'm unable to speak freely about Jesus, but I'm able to leave. I'm able to be myself.
Yeah.
And I'm able to get there, and the way that I touch the kids, the way that I teach them, the way that I express like all the gifts that God gave it to me, to embrace them. It's, for me, is already like a mission language to speak to them.
That you're speaking to them. Wow, that's really beautiful. So there is more to words that you can do. So you being that Christian, showing love, the virtues of Christianity, that's a way you have utilized an opportunity to minister and share your faith with those kids.
Definitely.
That's beautiful.
That's definitely what happened. So as a Christian, how do I speak with the kids? How do I make that difference? As a Christian, how do I deal with the parents that are sometimes frustrate because the kids are not developing the way that they expect them to do? How do I treat those expectations, bringing the gospel into it without, being like, oh, Jesus said that.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge every day. But like, I think that's the point. That's why Jesus wants us to walk around those areas, to be like a testimony. Like you don't have to be always like, preaching and saying things, and like I feel that sometimes that pushes people away because you're trying to prove a point, and instead when they looked at you, they see that you're different, like in the way that you talk, in the way that you work. So,
wow, that's so beautiful, Debora. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to shed a little more light into you now, into your own story. And this is just me being, curious and naughty and wanting to know more about you. Anyways, you moved from Brazil 8 years ago, and you're moving from a warm culture, just standard kind of living and stuff, and you're into this world-class city that is the New York, the heart of everything we see in movies and TV. And I know, of course, comments from all around, sometimes they say it's very hard for you to continue being a Christian and to live your faith when there's such glamour and pleasures and stuff. You get what I mean?
Yes.
How did you have your faith anchored and intact?
I think today, like I can see that helped me the most is being connected with my community. Because even though like when I go and I see people doing things that I don't do, and thinking and talking about stuff that like I don't believe and I don't see that way, when I come back to my community, it reminds me and it strengthens my faith to see like, oh, that's where I'm from. That's what I profess. That's my faith. Being in a discipleship with my leaders, it really encourages me, and it really reminds me every week that like, okay, you are going to work, but this is who you are. This is what Jesus have for you. So it is challenging to step into like a secular world, and New York is so attractive, guys. I have to tell you, everything that you see on TV, it is
real.
It is real. All the lights, the commercials, and the buying stuff, like how people like to buy, and the beauty and the glamour. It is real, and it is a big temptation every day. But I think when I go back to see like my friends and my community, and also my devotional life, like God comes and he says like, that's who you are, and you are able to live there and still, give your testimony. It's gonna be challenging, but it's not impossible. Like Jesus was there, and he did it, and all that you have to do is just to follow his steps. So surrounding yourself with people who profess and share the same faith is important in working this work. Wow, thank you, Debora. Lois, we'll take a short break, and then, but when we come back, we'd love to explore some more on the question of how can sports then, you being a gymnastics teacher, how have you seen this sport being relevant in fulfilling the Great Commission, and that's sharing your faith with other people, and how can we as Christians and ministries and churches utilize that opportunity to reach out to more people? So see you shortly. All right, welcome back from the break. Earlier on, we have Debora with us on set today. She is a gymnastics coach, and she has an amazing story of what it is that she does today. Before we took the break, we said that we'll be asking the question on how can we leverage our professions to share our faith. And we're going to make it a little more personal for you, Debora. As a gymnastics coach, how have you leveraged that opportunity to fulfill the great mandate that Christ left us? That's the Great Commission, to share the gospel of Christ to the ends of the earth. Just share a little bit of your story and how you've used that to still continue being a Christian. Yeah, so like I said it before, on the gym that I work, it's a secular gym, so we're not so freely allowed to be talking about religions and things like that. So I've been like through the years thinking about projects that I could involve the kids and introduce like things of the gospel, loving, discipline, like the fact that we are there like as an educator, like we have this freely communication to bring those concepts in. And I came up with this idea last year we call like a letter for you. So it came like after COVID, right? So the purpose was to encourage the kids, my students, about generosity, which is one of the teachings of the Bible, right? So I wanted to bring them the idea that, like, look, there is kids on the other side of the world, in another country that you don't know, they are also struggling with COVID, with all the quarantine and stuff like that. So I bring up this project, which is like a pen pal kind of thing, where they like encourage them to write letters, and on the letters they are introducing themselves, they talking about the sports that they love, and they are like sharing how they struggle a little bit with COVID. And at the end, they like give you encouragement word on how to stay positive. Like, how did you keep yourself positive?
Yeah.
So it was like very cute to see them putting the work on it. You know, like a lot of kids had so much stories to tell about it. And I gathered all those letters and I brought to Malacca Huchapo. And I was like very blessed to have this opportunity to work with the kids here. We had a gymnastics camp 2 weeks ago, where I had the opportunity to introduce them gymnastics as a sport, which is not so common in Kenya. So even though the kids were very talented, they were like doing cartwheels and handstands all around, and they were like, "Oh, we do that," and I'm like, "Yes, that's gymnastics."
That's gymnastics,
So that was very funny, and like it was very encouraging because they saw that, like, "Oh, this is actually a sport." So that part of education was very good. And at the end, we exchanged the letters. So I gave them the letters. And they were very excited about it. It was so beautiful to see, you know, like they receiving, they reading it, and they also sharing about their struggles. And you see now, like, now kids from Malacca and Huchapo was sharing about God. And many of the letters, they were like putting verses of the Bible and saying how God helped them to go through this struggle time. So I'm not preaching, like I'm not like openly like talking about Jesus, but the kids are. So I'm bringing those letters back to New York. And also, like, I did that with some kids of the church, too. So it was, like, a completely, like, exchange experience on the kids' perspective. So, like, their perspective about, you know, positive, like, encouragement. And the kids' here perspective about the encouragement, like, involving Christ and their relationship with God and being able to share that to the kids in
the U.S.,
in the gym. So, like, that for me, it literally went out of my control. I did not expect that the project would go that far. So that's why I get very excited when I talk about it, because the project is still going on. So like I still have the final phase where I'm gonna bring the letters back to the US and like see the kids reading it and getting to know more about the situation here. And just trigger on their heart that in New York, you know, like we said before, I guess the challenge of like so many lights, so many distractions, so many things to buy and money, and like bringing them a little bit to the sense of like, look, how about we think something other than ourselves? And preaching that to the kids was interesting because they wanted to do it. Kids are generous. They just need sometimes to be reminded of it. So that was like literally like it went out of my limits. Like I think about something small and God made such a big thing, and I'm very happy about it.
Oh, that's really beautiful. And you know, as you're sharing it, it feels like that's your availability for God to use you. And then he continued with the job and stuff. And it shows that he's really interested in what you're doing in your profession. The fact that you've thought about something, he comes in through. You're not able to share your faith directly, but kids thousands of miles away from these others are now sharing about Christ to them. And that's really neat. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing with us. I'm wondering, I feel like as a person who works, who is on the front line in ministry, like I'm actively involved in ministry, that's my profession. I feel like sometimes we shy a little bit from utilizing things that seem secular, you know, going outside, standing on the pulpit and preaching the word of God, which is absolutely important and foundational. I feel sometimes we shy away from things like sports to involve them in our ministry, to reach out to others and stuff. We feel like it's not fully effective, for lack of a better word. What would you say to such people, to a Jasmine who feels like, that's not very godly, just sports, jumping outside there, how is that helpful, in fulfilling the Great Commission and stuff? How do you deal with that, and what would be your advice to a person like Jasmine?
I think it's just a correction on the mindset. I think because I've been on that environment where I'm just in the ministry, and sometimes you live like in a bubble, and we forgot that God was the one that created those things. So it was like not created by, in the word and like to serve people that it's not in church. So God gave us the gift of, of the sport. He created that. And he created that to bless these people, to bless his people. So I think it's just like changing the mindset in a sense of like, those are resources that he put it in our hands to reach out to people and teach them about like all the things that is in the Bible. So, because the sports, it really involves a lot of like discipline. It involves resiliency.
Wow.
And you need to be patient, because now you're learning a skill that you never tried before. And those are things that is in the gospel through all the time. Absolutely, I did not have to say Jesus to introduce all those concepts that it's really, really missing in our society, by the way.
Wow, that's nice. So you're saying you feel sports can make, if well taught and trained and stuff, can make ministry practical, for lack of a better word. If you're teaching about patience and resilience and all that, sports have a way of making it practical.
Definitely, because through the sport, like they need to develop those things as they are in a class, in the gymnastics class. They first need to be resilient, because they're going to try a skill that they might not be able to do it at the first. And then they're going to have to be patient with themselves. And then the sport's not just about the individual. You see, like I take kids to competitions, and I have to constantly teach them about sportsmanship, which is like thinking about my friend and thinking about community and how we can gather and be there for each other. So
wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much, Debora. I want you to look at the camera, yours and stuff, and give and just from the little bit of experience that you've had. Okay, let's just say in the US, but also for the time that you've been here in Kenya. Talk to us and tell us, how can we be fully involved in sports ministry? I know, and I'm asking this because I know as Mamlaka Hill Chapel Ruaka, we have a soccer ministry, a men's soccer ministry and stuff, and we've seen amazing things happen. And probably hearing from someone who does it professionally might make a difference. I don't know. Please talk to us and encourage us and tell us how we can fully utilize sports ministry.
I think it's like you need to take advantage of it, of the professionals that have the skill of like teaching sports. It needs to be explored more, just because of that view that sometimes we separate things. And we are interested in our community health. So to be teaching the kids about strength, flexibility, and including them and educating them about that, I think it's very important. Yes.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Debora. I've really enjoyed having this conversation, getting to know you, but also seeing how effective the gifts that God has given us, how effective they are in doing ministry. You're such a blessing, and I love it. As we bring this discussion to an end, you're a visitor and you've crisscrossed many countries. You're from Brazil, you're in the US, now you're in Kenya. Who knows where you'll be next and stuff. Please tell us one fun fact.
Wow, that's a hard question. One fun fact. Oh my goodness, Jasmine.
About Brazil.
About Brazil?
Yeah.
A fun fact about Brazil? So hard to pick one. I think can I mix the fun facts?
Okay.
Because I have the experience and being a Brazilian living in Kenya, and I think it's such a match how warm people are there and how warm people are here. It's literally why it made me feel home. I literally keep telling people I feel that I'm home. I feel that I'm in Brazil, because people are very warm.
Yeah.
The hosting, when they receive visitors, they make a big deal about it, and you guys do that here too. So I think that's the fun fact of Brazil and Kenya. you know, like
they're matching.
yeah.
Okay, wow.
So much in common.
Okay, that's great. What's your favorite Kenyan meal?
Ugali.
Ugali.
Yes, ugali.
All right.
Delicious, guys. You all have to try it.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Debora. It's been really nice having you on the show. And I want to let us guys know that's it from Midweek Vibes today. Asante sana for joining us. I hope this conversation has been great for you. It has been great for me getting to hear more about Debora and how she is involved in ministry. Until next time, God bless you. Keep safe.